Sekeres and Price for June 25th, 2026, a presentation of Bet365. Welcome, everybody. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. I'm Blake Price. Alongside me, Jeff Patterson. Riding shotgun yesterday and today with Matt Sekeres away and enjoying the frivolities of the World Cup, despite the disappointments. Four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. And getting over yesterday still. It's too bad, although some things broke Canada's way. We'll get to that in just a second. Some things continue to rankle me, but it's just more than anything, I'm sad that the festivities might be a little less festive than if Canada was still hanging around here.
Oh, for sure. A knockout stage game in Vancouver.
Oh, would have gone off.
Incredible. The weather's supposed to turn here a little bit. Is that truly going to dampen?
That's true.
What's the motivation to get off your couch and get down to a watch party if it's pouring rain?
If they had won and it would have been July 2nd, that's on the outside edge of where the weather's supposed to improve.
But this weekend's looking a little spotty. So, it'll be interesting to see sort of the mood around town. But as we said yesterday, they're still in this thing. Like, yes, it was a loss, but now it's all systems go, full steam ahead, down to Los Angeles, take on South Africa, take out South Africa, and move into the round of 16.
More on that in a little bit here, but we also have the impending, I won't say doom, impending excitement of the Vancouver Canucks at the NHL entry draft, of the entire National Hockey League at the NHL entry draft.
Draft day eve now. Like, we are T-minus 28 hours or so.
So what is it? Drill down, folks. As you hear this poll question, think about truly what it is that you're most excited about this weekend from the Vancouver Canucks. Is it just their first-round picks? They got two of them, remember? 3 and 24. Or are you more excited about the wheeling and dealing for more picks and for whatever else? Maybe there's a young prospect thrown in there for good measure. But with every trade that comes down, that's not the anxiety, the excitement builds for when the Canucks will finally pull the trigger on something that bolsters this rebuild in some way, shape, or form. What do you think?
We have a trade to announce.
That's right.
Every time you hear that this weekend, you're going to think, is this it? For me, it's the draft picks. Like, they've come this far to be the day before. We know that they're picking in the first round. It's just a question of ultimately, do they stick with the ones they've got? Does that change in some fashion? But they're coming away from Friday night with at least one, and I do think multiple first-round picks. And so I just kind of feel like the season that was, the build-up to the lottery, that didn't go the way they wanted. Here we are. I just want to put some names now to these spots, to 3 and 24, if that's ultimately where they stick. So I'm going to vote the draft picks.
I'm going to go for trades because I think given the atmosphere and environment that is out there right now, you can't be on the sidelines just watching. There has to be something, some other shoe to drop, and I think the Canucks even have an avenue to get another first-round pick. At that point, I would vote their 3 first-round picks, but right now, I'm going to say the trades and the prospect of that third first-round pick has got me more intrigued. You can cast your vote on all of our socials, of course, and we'll update you on that on tomorrow's show, which we should say
what is the plan?
Will be a draft afternoon show here for the Vancouver Canucks. We'll come up right before draft time and take you through the entirety of the first round for the Vancouver. I don't think we're going to stick around for 32 unless the Vancouver Canucks have another pick in the late stages, but we'll certainly get you to 24, and it should be a lot of fun.
Well, and I think, too, that they should be able to get from 3 to 24 a whole lot quicker. Again, it's a decentralized draft, so yes, the prospects and agents and NHL front office people are in Buffalo, and each team will have a representative, but the Canucks are here in their war room at Rogers Arena. Now, we remember last year that crazy Zoom interview with each front office and the player, awkward as hell, and just took forever.
Hopefully they streamline it.
I think that's being done away with, maybe the first couple. I'm not sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this presentation looks like as a TV product. But most of all, I'm just looking forward to it moving a little faster than it did last year. So, there's going to be a ton to digest at 3, and hopefully it won't take that long for the show's sake to get to that second pick in the first round as well.
They say the draft begins at 4. We'll begin the show maybe a few minutes before that just to hedge our bets. Who knows when that first pick, when they say 4, who knows when they actually mean the first pick is up and on the clock.
Probably closer to 4:15 or maybe even later than that.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll ensure that we're on in due time, but certainly look for us around 4 o'clock tomorrow to begin that edition of Sekeres and Price with Matt back in the fold. But cast your vote in the daily poll question, and we look forward to those results. Time for our top story today. Let's get right to it. As General Manager Ryan Johnson of the Vancouver Canucks has spoken. It's all brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, and Yellow Dog Spirits. He met with the media today and answered a lot of the burning questions. I don't know that there was a lot of burning answers that came back in the other direction, but we'll let you decide on that. First and foremost, is there more coming for the Vancouver Canucks? Is there a trade in the offing? He dealt with the possibility of a veteran being approached and being asked to be traded.
Not at all. Not at this point. I want to be clear to anybody that if I'm going down a path, it has to be to the vision and to what we've said we want to accomplish. But by no means am I having back and forth, collecting lists, going through no. I'm just doing the due diligence of speaking with 31 other teams, and if there becomes a point where we have to make a decision or speak to somebody of anybody in our group, then we approach it that way.
So we've traded everybody. He has not come close to trading anybody just yet.
Which I think is standard operating procedure for a general manager at this stage, to collect the information, have those discussions, but then and only then do you go to the player or his agent and say, hey, this is what's in front of us. We'd really like to consider this trade, but we need you to sign off on it. So, rather than rounding up Philip Hronik and Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser and Jake DeBrusk and saying, give me your lists or whatever, pretty clear the day before the draft that that's not the way that they are operating right now.
And he may be hiding behind semantics a little bit too. You tell me you haven't had a single discussion with Jake DeBrusk about your future? Surely there has to have been something, if not something recently of, Ottawa wants you. I understand if maybe that hasn't happened, but he's had a conversation, hasn't he?
Well, Jake will have a conversation with everybody.
Yes.
So from that side, you would think so. And you're right. I felt as I watched Ryan Johnson's availability today, and I wasn't down at the rink for it, that everything was sort of couched in that very protective veneer of, I'm not giving up anything today.
Yes.
To you, the media. I will answer these questions, but in terms of absolutely giving you the goods, it's just not going to happen. And Ryan's he's an honest guy, but I think he's also fairly guarded and doesn't want to tip his hand in any way. And I can understand that, especially if he is in the midst of some conversations with other teams around the National Hockey League. So I would agree with you. I'd like to think that even at a base level, there have been some conversations, discussions with agents about, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is how we feel. How do you guys feel? I just want to get a sense if you are absolutely firmly rooted here in Vancouver and with the rebuild, or if there is a possibility that you would be open to movement if we get to that point.
I think the over-under for veterans traded for realistically is 1.5. And I think 2 would be considered a success for the Canucks. I think 1 probably feels like not enough for a lot of people. So that leads us into this answer from Ryan Johnson about sort of how active. And again, there's a lot of vagaries. We've already said he didn't want to spill too much here. So read between the lines on this answer as to how deep the cuts could go for the Vancouver Canucks this summer.
Yeah, it's something you consider. I've said this. Yes, are we in a rebuild? But it's not sell off, get as young as you can, get your teeth kicked in, and think that things are just going to naturally happen. You want to insulate players, with not just with good players, but with great people. I've been very clear that the people that will walk into these doors are great people that have the engine, that have the professionalism and the room awareness that we're looking for. So it's not just about strip it down as fast as you can and it'll automatically grow on its own. That's not the approach here, but it's something that is in consideration of we do when you're subtracting. What are you truly subtracting just besides the hockey player?
After the experience that everybody had over the last couple of years, no surprise he's pumping the great people side of things, and we'd expect that out of this trio, the Twins and Ryan Johnson. On the whole, I think people are trying to come to grips with what they actually want out of this, because we've got 2 great examples. I would say that the Sharks and the Blackhawks both did the full sell-off. I mean, there was not a lot of decorated veterans, Foligno and Chicago maybe, and they are the worse off right now, but they were pretty stripped down. And San Jose looks poised to rise out of the ashes here. So not so much Chicago, but I understand his theory there, but I think we've got some proof here with San Jose that you can make it work.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be a segment of the fan base that's disappointed to hear that answer from Ryan Johnson. There are a lot of people that have been banging the drum, like, just strip it right down. Easy to say, tougher to do, obviously. And now we're at a point in time where the guy that's in charge is saying, like that's just not the way that we're approaching this. So I'm with you. They have to make some changes, like running it back. Even if you want them to be a dead last team again, they're going to struggle regardless what they do. Mm-hmm. But they do have to make some moves. And Ryan Johnson did talk about that a little bit today. He said that they've told their pending UFAs that they've got to free up some space for other guys, and we had that discussion yesterday. So I think we all knew that they were moving off of Evander Kane. It certainly has sounded like they weren't planning to bring Teddy Bluger back. I would take from that even a guy like Curtis Douglas is going to be hitting the open market here. And then you heard Ryan Johnson say, like, it's all calculated about the players that they are bringing in. It really does feel like they are trying to find culture carriers that are going to be willing to come in here on short-term deals, and maybe you have to overpay a little bit. Maybe you find guys that only have a year left in their contract, like a Brendan Gallagher. Whatever the case, it feels like they've got their eye on particular types of players. And I think that's going to be the expectation here moving forward. If they're at all active in free agency, it's going to be sort of, I don't want to say bottom of the barrel, but a very specific type that can come in here and bring leadership and just be, good, true professionals through and through. That's what they're looking for.
Even given the players that you talked about that they aren't bringing back, the UFAs, there's still not a lot of spots available, is there? Like, you expect some graduation of players. You expect that guys like Ratu and Lekramaki are a bigger part of the organization from the get-go, from opening night. It's not like they need to bring in many people. They have a lot of players under contract.
Right. So, Ratu obviously is a guy that you want to
see
clear a bit of a path for.
Yeah.
Lekramaki. Braden Coots, if he, a year older, he made the team last year out of camp. And I don't know that the NHL is the right place for him on a last place team, but if he comes in and does what he did at camp last year, you have to at least be open to that possibility. And then we're talking about a player that's taken 3rd overall here. If they stick with that pick, right now, they've got a lot of guys under contract, and a lot of those players are players with trade protection, and that's what makes this such a difficult part of the process for Ryan Johnson. And so, yeah, they've got to untangle the web a little bit here and try. And that's why, I think your line of 1.5 in terms of trading veterans is probably a fair one. I'd love to see them hit the over.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's going to be I certainly don't expect that's going to happen this weekend. It doesn't have to happen this weekend, though. They do have a little bit of time on their side in that regard.
I think one has to happen this weekend, though, doesn't it? Given the atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, given the climate around the National Hockey League, and also just to sort of back up your words with some action, like that's what we talked about, is it's fine to talk about trading forever. At some point, this is part of the job. It's a big part of the job for Ryan Johnson. You just got to pull the trigger on that first one, and maybe it makes subsequent trades that much easier. But, until we see that first trade, it's all just hypothetical right now, and at some point, need to see a little action.
And there's consumer confidence. I mean, you wouldn't guess that liquidating a veteran would sell you tickets, but I think people would be like, oh, adults in the room, plan in place. Ask people about what it was like in San Jose last season. It wasn't a playoff year for San Jose, but the vibes were back for the Sharks, who can pack that place when there are reasons to be excited. When you've got confidence that things are heading in the right direction, people do want to be a part of it. You talked about that number 3 pick. Doesn't sound like they're moving from there, up or down. He seemed pretty rooted and satisfied.
Yeah, that was one of my takeaways. That he says he's in on the calls, looking at just about everything, but he said that pretty likely they're going to hold on to 3, and they're excited. And in his words, he said, we're excited about the player we're going to get there, which, I think they probably now have a sense of what's going to happen ahead of them, and they can start to zero in on the player they want with that 3rd overall selection.
And he said they will choose whomever they like there. Passport be damned. Was curious if he'd get asked about this and how honest he'd be about it. And I think it's a pretty honest answer about the prospect of drafting an American after all we've seen in the NHL of late.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, you'd be crazy to not think everybody in the league is not thinking or talking about it. Is that a trend that is just, in the last year or so that has caught fire? Is it coincidence on the situations that certain players are involved in? I think as an organization, you talk about it. At this point, is it something that I would say we are going to shy away from drafting a player because he's from a certain nationality? Not at this point. But it is a situation that has put some teams in a pretty tough spot, and that's unfortunate.
That's pretty honest. Like, they've had the discussion. It is not just for shows like this to discuss.
No, well, look, they've been burned by it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not the latest team because Brady forced his way out of Ottawa, but they went through it last season with Quinn Hughes. And so, yeah, I mean, it is a reality. And now, is it just this era? Is it just that gold medal winning group? Is it, does it extend beyond that? I guess time will tell. And they've still got a roster that has a bunch of Americans on it.
It's
so, is that next wave going to get to a point where it also wants to follow this trend and this, this path that so many big name players have gone down? But yeah, I mean, Ryan Johnson, being honest there, hey, they've had the discussion at the very least, but he said it's not going to impact the way they go about drafting. So.
Speaking of the American, Mike, I don't know if I've told you to have the Demko clip ready. I don't know if you can get that clip ready. We're going to hear from Ryan Johnson on Thatcher Demko as well. We should mention Manny Malhotra's staff and the AHL staff, which has virtually nobody on it. That doesn't sound like it's too far away.
No, Ryan Johnson said that he hoped to have an announcement by next week. And again, development camp starts on the weekend, and it's usually conducted by the Abbotsford staff, so I'm wondering if they do have people in place and ready to go. Maybe we'll find out
true.
that way.
Yeah.
He also said, and I thought this part was interesting, that Rich Seeley, who they've brought in as the AGM and also the general manager of Abbotsford, he said he is narrowing down the candidates. So it looks like that file really has been placed in the hands of Rich Seeley to find the next head coach of the Abbotsford Canucks.
We had it yesterday. Thatcher Demko's on the ice for the first time yesterday. He Instagrammed it himself. I said yesterday on the show, Jeff, I was like, love the timing. June 24th at that point. We're talking 2.5 because it's earlier this year, but 2.5 full months to get ready for training camp. Seemed like a pretty easy prediction to make. maybe not so straightforward, according to Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, he and I have had plenty of conversations, plenty of sit-downs here in the arena and just small talk. I've known Thatcher for a long time. He and I were in Utica together when he first started. So we've got a long relationship and understanding of who each other are and what's important to each other. So it's been really refreshing to see the work that he's put in, his headspace. He looks refreshed, excited. When Manny was in here, they had a chance to sit down, and there's a lot of really good, positive energy, not just from Thatcher, but from the group that I know of the players I'm talking. They're already discussing getting back here. Should we be back earlier? When can we get on the ice? We got to get this going. So the overall feeling that I'm getting from all our players is a lot of excitement, and they're ready to go. Which is, you're sitting here in June and they're talking about that. That's pretty exciting for us as a group.
We saw on social that Thatcher was back on the ice yesterday. What is the time? Like, you expect him to be ready for training camp based on that?
Don't want to put any, pressure again on timelines. He's doing well. The fact that he's just taking those steps back onto the ice is encouraging. But you got to give him credit, not just physically, but mentally. What this has been on him of just some of these processes, and like I said, his energy, his enthusiasm. He's got that boyish look in his eyes again, which is exciting, and I think that's because he's committed to staying here. He's put in the work, and now to see these steps finally are coming, I think he feels he's getting that much closer.
So he didn't kill it.
But that wasn't a big old yes.
No.
That he'll be ready for training camp.
No, it wasn't full-throated either. No.
That's a little concerning.
And maybe, I tweeted something about Ryan Gauld being in full training for the Whitecaps, and I couched it by saying, I know until he plays you won't believe it, but he's back at full training. I think it's sort of the same thing. I think it is such a history now for Thatcher Demko, such an injury history, that I think he's just like, whatever it is, it is.
Fair enough. And if yesterday was the first day on the ice, let's see how he got through day one.
Yep.
And hopefully it all went well and that there's a day two to follow. But, yeah, I just think after all that Thatcher Demko's been through, you want to believe that he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go. Like, if he's not there on day one of training camp, isn't that, like, the big story? Like, here we go again with a guy that, he's got the raise and the trade protection kicking in a week from now, and he's still not around. So let's see where it goes. As you said, 2.5 months, so a lot of time here. But there's also a long history. And so, all eyes on that goaltending position.
Although if he didn't show up or wasn't ready, that would make the decision-making on what the goaltending situation looks like that much easier, because if he is ready to go, they do have some decisions and some tinkering as to who's the backup, who's in the AHL, all of that, and can you just go into the season, a rebuilding season, with $13-14 million in goaltending under the cap?
Well, I think with Thatcher Demko too, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt that the hip surgery is going to cure a lot of what has plagued him here for the last little while. But there's going to get to a point with another serious injury where long-term IR is his destination, and at some point he may not get off that LTIR. I don't think he's there yet. In fact, I know he's not there yet here in the middle of the summer, but you just wonder, like, how many more significant injuries can that body of his take at soon to be 31?
Carey Price just announced in this Hall of Fame class, every injury is to the individual. They're not perfect apples to apples comparisons, but you do start to get those sorts of
I think
inklings.
The position he plays, his age, the nature of the injuries, like, it has to have a compounding effect. There's no other way at this stage of his career. So
that's all I've got. Did anything else strike you from Ryan Johnson?
No, he seemed pretty relaxed the day before his first draft. And, there's something to any general manager when he takes over. Jim Benning had Jake Virtanen, Patrick Alvin and his group had Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. You're tied to sort of that first pick. So I am curious to see what history will show us about Ryan Johnson and the Canucks scouting staff and what they do with that third selection. tomorrow night.
Top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing and the Chase My Tail Pale Ale. It's a cornerstone, foundational beer for Yellow Dog. They're on special for the month of June. These are the full-on cases. It's summertime. It's time for a case of beer. 12-pack, 355 mLs. Look for it on sale at private and government liquor stores, whatever is your pleasure. Now, more Canuck news to talk about. You mentioned possibly no Curtis Douglas. Well, they've got super tall big guy under wraps already for next season. Ilya Safonov is getting set to try and make the National Hockey League. The Canucks KHL signing does have a KHL out clause, apparently, but he's pledging not to use it anytime soon, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a guy that is prepared to come to camp, give it his best shot, and if it doesn't work for him, ply his trade out in the Fraser Valley in the minors. So it sounds like he is committed to coming over to North America and sticking it out. Now, we saw Vitaly Kravtsov come to camp last year.
That's right.
Get sent to Abbotsford. And
thought it the same thing.
Was on an early flight back to his homeland. So a different player, and this is a guy that was at development camp last summer. He is big. Like, the size is undeniable. Now, he's not going to replace Curtis Douglas. They play different styles and different roles, but just in terms of a big center and down the middle and the bottom of your lineup, we talked about if they're walking away from Teddy Bluger, this team's so thin at center ice that I think there's a possibility. I'm not going to make any grand predictions, but I think this is a real opportunity for Ilya Safonov to try to pick up where he left off after a fairly promising KHL season. And hey, bit of a wild card, but maybe there's something there.
But a player like that's not going to drop the gloves and fight as much as Curtis Douglas does. But the shadow, the weight, the play along the wall, like that.
Sure. I think with his frame, you can just lean on guys.
Yes.
Use that size down low. You're right.
He's got to be able to skate, and we'll find out for sure if he can do that. Congratulations to the Minnesota Wild. They seem to have captured the heart of Quinn Hughes. The owner, Ted Leopold, is saying he is confident they'll sign him. Admits there's some discrepancy over the term, that Quinn wants 3 years because, he wants to eke out every bit of juice out of the core of this Minnesota Wild team, see if he can win a cup, and then he wants to go play with his brothers. The Wild wants something closer to 5 years. That'll be the negotiation. But their gamble appears to have paid off. If they get any extension, I mean any extension, Jeff, if they only get a 2-year extension, that'll still be worth it, I think, for the Minnesota Wild.
Look, rich guys generally get what they want.
That's
and
true.
So to hear an owner say, we're going to sign Quinn Hughes, fine. Your hockey club gave up a ton of assets to get him. Understandably, I mean, he played really well for you. Yeah, you want Quinn Hughes. But doesn't that give Quinn Hughes and his camp just a little more leverage? Not that Quinn needs a ton of leverage. I mean, his play on the ice speaks for itself. But if the owner says, we're going to sign him, and then Quinn said, yeah, meet my price, and absolutely. So we'll see where it goes. Leopold did say that they'd like to sign him for as long as possible, but he recognized that Quinn may have designs on a shorter contract. So, yeah, I mean, the brothers' story hasn't gone away at all just because Quinn Hughes has a new hockey home. I think that backdrop will always be there until that point comes. Quinn and Jack and maybe Luke, all three of them get the chance to play together. But, yeah, I mean, I look, the Minnesota Wild is a good hockey club. We saw that. They were just in the most competitive division, and no shame in finishing third there. In that Central Division, it's going to be good for years to come, and I think the Minnesota Wild will be as well. So they made the trade. They've seen the player. Now you can understand why they want to re-sign him, and ultimately it's a question of getting that pen to paper. We talked an awful lot about this storyline last year. It was going to be here in Vancouver. Next summer they're going to have a chance to re-sign Quinn Hughes. Well, now it's the Minnesota Wild who will have that opportunity here in the coming months. I
turned him into Ted Leonsis. Craig Leopold. Craig Leopold, the owner of the Minnesota Wild. All right, let's turn our attention to a little bit of soccer now. Big disappointment yesterday, but still a big day nevertheless locally with Canada playing and losing 2-1 to Switzerland. We talked about that in our post-game show there that we had for you. But since we went off air there, we now have found Canada's path in the World Cup. The only match that is solidified in the round of 32 is Canada's, and that is because South Africa posted probably the biggest upset victory There's been a lot of upset ties, draws, but upset victory, that might be South Africa's after their 1-0 defeat of South Korea. Improbable, but more possible when you bench Son Heung-min in the first half like Korea did. Came on at halftime. And you thought Jesse Marsh was under fire. My goodness, you see the stories being written about the South Korean coach.
You see the question?
Yes. Did you have food poisoning?
Or how else do you explain this performance? I love that. I took note of that. That might be my first question to Manny Malhotra after a loss.
After a bad one, yeah. Well, and to their point, their media's point, they look disinterested. Like they look like they couldn't run. And for my money, that's why Canada versus South Africa bodes pretty well, because they will let Canada have the ball. And it'll be up to Canada to score. And I think Canada will be that much more motivated to score. I think Promise David should be getting the start inside the box there to bang home those crosses. But it turns really, really interesting here. Not to mention, the environment gets a lot easier.
Right. I think that's an important point here.
Yeah.
That huge Korean community in Los Angeles, I don't think there's as big a South African.
There's big of everything in Los Angeles.
Of course. But between expat Canadians that are already in California,
yes,
and ones that are going to make the trek, and I know that the Voyageurs, and I think just some easy flight to Los Angeles, it's a weekend game. I think Canada will show out there. And so I think not necessarily a home pitch advantage, but I do think that there'll probably be more Canadian fans than South African fans.
Not that the Korean fans are notable for their rudeness or belligerence, but it'll be a much kinder atmosphere to Canada, that's for sure. It's against South Africa, a team ranked 54th in the world by FIFA. Let's take a look at the bracket here. You can see where Canada's headed. The ELO rating, the progressive ranking, has them at 70th. So, I mean, Canada's in the low 30s of both of those rankings. They are the favorites now. And you can see the path.
Yeah, don't get ahead of yourself.
Get ahead of yourself. Netherlands, Morocco would be next. And then after that, Germany or France. So they're not winning the World Cup here very clearly, but Netherlands and Morocco could be worse as well, like if they do get the victory. But all of this does make the furor of not getting another home match start to hit home right now for a lot of people. Should Canada, as rightful co-hosts, have another home match? You know, Canada and Mexico don't get the luxury of losing. The United States could have lost. They would still be playing their next match in the United States.
Right. And in this format of the World Cup with 3 co-hosts, Canada's the only one that's going to have to leave its own country
First time in history it's ever happened.
Yeah. Again, though, it was there for them. It was there for them at the half yesterday. We know that. We broke it all down. It's still frustrating and disappointing, but I think Canada, the team, the players afterwards, they all understood the assignment here that, they let one sort of slip away, but now it's a business trip, right? And go down to Los Angeles. At that point, they didn't know for sure who their opponent was, so we haven't seen any reaction from Canadian players and coaches about it being South Africa now. But for Canada, it's just all about taking the good out of the 2 games here in Vancouver, and trying to find ways. I mean, the Qatar game, obviously, everything broke their way yesterday. Faced a little bit of adversity, certainly early in that second half. But even the way that they finished that game, I think that those final 20 minutes is something to build on for this Canadian side as they get ready now for the do-or-die portion of this tournament.
Spontaneous poll question. Would you rather Canada at home to Belgium, because that was on the table,
right,
or the current scenario, on the road versus South Africa? For the greater good, you're probably better off with the current scenario.
Yeah, I think so.
You lose out on vibes. You lose out on the first-person fun for the tens of thousands of people. But for Canada to make it to the round of 16, it might be. Also,
noon on Sunday, we should mention.
Noon on Sunday, yes, noon on Sunday, and we'll be watching and ready for some content production when that match comes to an end. Jesse Marsh, Canada has finished training for the day, and he had more to say on the Davies situation today at training. He says Davies tapped him early in the day, said, "I want to play." But Marsh said because he hadn't yet hit athletic benchmarks, they refused. And he won't be playing 90 minutes when he does play. So we work back from there. Could he start and play 45? Does he come on at the half like Sun Heung-min did for Korea and play 45? Is it about a late game cameo with your tournament on the line against South Africa? And again, the handling of this, who's in charge? Is it all Canada's doing? Is Byron involved here? I mean, the questions continue to swirl here, Jeff.
Yeah, and Jesse Marsh hasn't asked me for my advice, but if he watches Sekeres and Price, as he should here in town, I think I'd be inclined to roll with something close to the lineup that they finished with yesterday to start the game on Sunday.
Sure.
Keep Alphonso Davies sort of in your back pocket if you're tied, if you're down a goal at half. At that point, I think that's when you turn him loose, hopefully. If you know you've only got him for 45 minutes, say, I'm not sure that I would put him in the starting lineup, although I suppose the counter-argument there is, could he give them a boost to get a lead in the first half and get the job done that way?
Maybe more critical is Moise Bombito, because there's literally track stars as forwards for South Africa. They are fast, and having, and that's if Bombito can be himself. But if Bombito is healthy enough, Bombito as a safety net is going to be a necessary thing.
Yeah, and that sort of got lost in the shuffle because he played well in his minutes against Qatar. I think everybody assumed, okay, he's, this is the path there. He's cleared to be a part of this now, and then didn't play yesterday.
Nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
So he'll be an important body to watch as well. Sunday, noon, South Africa in Los Angeles. Looking forward to it. Time for a look at the menu for today's show. Brought to you by Greta. Of course, great spot to watch the big game, whatever the sport is. Walking distance to the arena and the stadium. Stop by before or after. Great spot for your upcoming party or social as well. Work event. Check out Greta. Great street food. The arcade is so much fun for everybody that you bring. For more info and to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta Bar at 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We've got two great guests with two very specific topics and jobs at hand. First of all, TSN's Frank Corrado on the craziness of the wheeling and dealing that we've seen in the National Hockey League and the intersection that it has with the draft picks, because you can't get away from the fact that San Jose has added, that St. Louis has added. We'll get Frank's takes on all of that and how it changes what the Vancouver Canucks future might be and the lack of Vancouver Canucks trades right now. And then Will Scouch joins us, and you might not be as familiar with Will Scouch. He's an analytics and draft expert with Fractal Hockey and Scouching.ca. And his rankings of draft prospects is unlike most rankings and mock drafts. He's got the same top two as most everybody. After that, it goes haywire. Admit, when I first showed that to you, eyebrow raised?
No, I was starting to go through that, and I'm looking for the sort of the guys that have been linked to the Canucks for so long, whatever. Anyway, down and kept on looking further down the list. No, it's interesting, but he backs it up. I mean, it's a fascinating chat, and
there's no he's the one commonality between all the draft experts. It's sliced so thin once you get past McKenna and Stenberg. So it's not like anybody is. Again, you might be a little surprised when you see where he's got Malhotra and Reed and others. He doesn't hate Malhotra and Reed, but he'll back it up. He'll explain it all coming up later on in the show. Time for our Bet365 bets of the day. Jeff, what are you looking at today?
I'm looking at the BC Lions, who need a win, but so do the Calgary Stampeders. They're playing in Kelowna. Kelowna, late June, you think glorious sunshine? Not so much. It could be a little sloppy up there at the Apple Bowl. They've got the same weather forecast we do. We'll see how that plays into all of this. CFL going to the Okanagan. First of consecutive weeks there for the BC Lions. Lions on the money line at minus 125. I'm going to think that they'll figure out a way and hopefully use home field advantage to come up with their first win of the season.
I'm going with home field in the CFL as well, because before we get to that Saturday afternoon affair at the Apple Bowl in Kelowna, it is the Rough Riders hosting the Argonauts. The Riders are already 1-0 at home, 2-0 on the season, and I don't think I have to give up 3.5 points. I'll gladly swallow that spread on the Argos, who are 1-1. They're fine, but I think the Riders at home will take care of business. So Riders minus 3.5 pays out at minus 115. The worst thing about hockey season is that at some point it does have to end. There's a lot of time between now and the first puck drop of next season, which feels like an eternity, I'm sure, for many of you. After all those nightly games, especially in the playoffs. The good news is that Bet365 still has plenty of games, just none that require lacing up your skates. There's Bet365 Casino. You can choose between slots, live tables, your favorite games, maybe your second favorite game if you're a hockey nerd like we are. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. TSN's Frank Corrado. Next. Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and everybody's getting set for free agency right after the draft. This is the fun, silly season of the National Hockey League. Trades come in during that time as well. Check it all out with Jeff Merrick, Tyler Uremchek, Carter Hutton, David Pignota, live in studio July 1st for the Daily Faceoff Free Agency Special. That's on the YouTube channel and socials. It's also available stream on the Puckpedia X channel. The Puckpedia-powered signing tracker is going to keep fans updated on every deal as it happens, so don't miss a second of the action. Our next guest will be involved as well with the TSN coverage on July 1st and beyond. Frank Corrado back with us once again. Frank, how are you, sir?
I'm good, boys. What's happening over there?
Oh, we are waiting for Canucks fans to react to the first trade from the Vancouver Canucks. Everybody's jealous of everything that's happening around the league here. Everybody's clearing house and moving veterans and all that, and Canucks fans are being left on the doorstep here. What's going on?
Okay, you can't do nothing, clearly, but you can't do everything. And when when the Canucks say that it's a rebuild but not a sell-off, like they have to strike the right balance of making sure that, you're hitting a salary cap floor. You have to do that. So you need certain money on your books. But if you use Chicago as an example, like they went full scorched earth, and they've unintentionally finished 31st again now when they don't want to be, because they want to be turning a corner. So there's a balance there between trading players off, bringing assets in, but not getting it to the point where your young guys are all trying to figure out the NHL together without the right experience and veteran guys around them, because it makes a difference when you have good mentors who can show you the way.
You talk about Chicago. Let's start right there. One of the teams that was active this week made the splash, pay a price in the 4th overall pick, but they get Bo Byram on their blue line, and obviously they need to make moves to support Connor Bedard and, as you said, try to move this thing forward here. Is Bowen Byram a healthy Bowen Byram? Is he the right guy for the job there?
I think that's the big thing, right? Like he's got to be healthy, which he has been now for a couple of years, which is good. He's never been a number one because he's had to play behind Makar and Rasmus Dahlin. So he's going to be a number one now. He's going to be a number one on a team that isn't going to give him a ton of support. So there's going to be moments where maybe he's trying to do a lot with the puck and could get exposed that way, or eaten some minuses that is not a good feeling. But that's the reality of the team that he's going to. But the big question I had was, like, Chicago needs help for sure. Chicago needs forwards. Like they need forwards to play with Connor Bedard, like highly skilled forwards. And I get it. Bowen Byram's a good defenseman up in the rush, all that kind of stuff, skates with the puck. But like it felt like that was an area where they were really building it right on the back end. With guys like Vlasic and Kaiser, and Levshunov has to take another step, but the Crevier kid is massive, who goes the other way. I thought if you were going to spend that asset, you were going to bring back a difference-making forward to play with Connor Bedard, not a defenseman.
The potential for either one of those players to end up as a Vancouver Canuck, and I'm talking Bedard and Byram, going down a little bit, maybe if they can make that work and turn that into something. Another big deal was, well, there was two that sort of came together, and that is the Brady Tkachuk deal from Ottawa down to Florida. And then Ottawa's got to react because they need to replace what Brady Tkachuk was. So they get William Eklund from San Jose, which means San Jose's got 2 top 10 picks as it stands as we record this right now. And we all wonder now how that changes the price of bread for the Canucks at number 3 in the draft, because now maybe the dreams of them passing on Stenberg because they need a defenseman so bad, maybe that goes out the window, because you can still find, there's so many defensemen, they can still find a defenseman at number 9. Do you think this changes everything now in the top 10 of the draft, the San Jose trade?
Well, you know what's crazy about this is San Jose is going to have 2 drafts in the last 3 years. So this one in 2 years ago, where they're going to draft potentially like a franchise / superstar forward, and then possibly like a top pair defenseman, because they had Celebrini, Dickinson 2 years ago. Yeah. Of course, they drafted Misa 2nd overall last year. And now this year, there's a world where they're going to go Stenberg, and is it going to be Rudolph, Verhoff, Smits? Like, that's what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, talk about team building through the draft. That, like, San Jose has been given a glorious opportunity to hit on some guys here, and that could be their core of their team moving forward. So, pretty crazy that's the spot that they're going to be in. But like Mike Greer's doing as far as rebuilds go, we'll see what the finished product looks like, but he's doing an unbelievable job.
See, they kind of went scorched earth too. Like, per our conversation about the Canucks, like those were 2 horrific years.
Yes,
but now it's paying off here for Mike Greer.
Yeah, you know what the difference is? Celebrini achieved a higher level than Bedard did right away. Yes. Like, Bedard was headed closer to that way this year with the way he was playing before he got hurt, but then he got hurt and then the team really fell off. But you felt like Bedard was trying to get there. But Celebrini's he's in a different category. The way that he's able to shape a team and change a team. Like, no offense to any of those guys, Eklund, Will Smith, Colin Graff, no one is anywhere near that guy. He's a complete franchise altering player. So that makes a big difference for San Jose.
Another team that was active this week and I think has had a pretty solid week is the Washington Capitals, adding Alex Tuch and Jordan Kyrou. We talked about this on yesterday's program, Frank. Kyrou, 28, he's under contract, I think, for 5 more years at $8 million per. 3 times a 70-point guy. So you bring in Kyrou, and then on top of that, you add Alex Tuch to a team that had 95 points. I know they missed the playoffs, but this feels like that's propelled the Capitals in the right direction here pretty quickly.
Yeah, and doesn't it feel like we might have seen the last of Ovi, considering, you bring in Tuch, you bring in Kyrou, they're both right-handed shots. Like, it's really crowded with it's Wilson, it's Leonard, it's Kyrou, it's Tuch. Both Protas brothers are going to be playing. Like, the wing positions on both sides got crowded there in a hurry. So, we'll see what that looks like as far as Ovi's future goes. But, 2 summers ago, Washington was really active. They made the trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois, and they really tried to expedite things. I think that's when they signed Mangiapane as well. Like, they kind of really, like, they renovated the house over the summer, and that's when they were first place in the Eastern Conference after, and obviously didn't go as far as they would have liked to in the playoffs. But this offseason feels like that offseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Washington near the top of the Metro next year when it's all said and done.
It's a lot of trades. Is there anything left to be done? Do you think there's more that can happen still? And specifically from the Canucks, like, do they move Elias Pettersson? Is that part of the mix here in the next few weeks?
There has to be more, and the Canucks have to be involved because they're one of the true sellers. Like they are. So, the Canucks would have to be involved in something, whether it's Elias Pettersson or is it Filip Hronek? Is it Brock Besser? Is it Jake DeBrusk? There's too much there that it would be quiet for them. And I think if you're looking at other teams, right, like, is Detroit just going to, like, Dylan Larkin needs to be traded still? Is that all they're going to work on? Or are they going to have to do something to make that team competitive? If you look at Toronto, there's a lot of talk about Matthew Nyes and Morgan Riley. Like, do you want those things lingering? So yeah, I think it's, it feels like now that we're not living in a flat cap world, everyone's able to do their business when they want to do their business, not just when, it's crunch time and it's a pressure point. So, and given the fact that the UFA class is as weak as it is, you have to make trades if you want to better your team this year, or you're just going to get, marginally better or marginally older, essentially, if you're just relying on the UFA class.
Frank, so many guys have trade protection here in Vancouver, but around the National Hockey League, you've been a player. From a player's perspective, is it bad business if management comes to a player and asks to waive, or is that just part of life of the National? You still have say. You've got control over it, but is it bad business if the team that handed you trade protection then comes back and asks you to waive it?
No, they can ask you. I don't think there's an issue with them asking. If you don't ask, you don't know. But the player earned it. The player negotiated it. So he has every right to not oblige you in allowing him to be traded. And you know what? Like, it's funny. We talk about the Brady Tkachuk thing all the time, right? If a team makes a trade and trades a player and says, we just had an opportunity we couldn't pass up and we had to kick you away, so we think we're better now. Okay, so now there's certain players that have the opportunity to do that to teams, and it looks different. It looks, I don't know, it looks like you want out, but teams do that to players all the time. So I think it works both ways in that regard. So I think, to your point about teams coming to players, well, they have to come to the players because they need the permission. Maybe we should get to a world where GMs don't try and buy down players' contracts by giving them 10, 16, and 20 team no trades. So, maybe we're getting out of that world now because the cap is going up. But that's the reality of where everything has been for the longest time.
It's a busy time. We'll let you get back to it, and we can't wait to see what happens over the course of the weekend. A busy Friday and Saturday, and the NHL might have a lot of changes by the time we next talk in between the draft and free agency. Frank, appreciate your time today.
See you, boys. Thanks.
It's the Harrison Price featuring Patterson live from the historic Wall Center, of course, and it is getting close to draft time, folks. David Pagnotta and Irfan Gaffar, well aware of this as well. They are going live tonight with the DFO Insider pre-draft special at 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. That is 4 p.m. here in the Pacific Time Zone. It's on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. They will cover all the latest moves around the league and break down what they're looking at heading up to the NHL Draft. So set your notifications now and get set for more of David and Irf.
Look at that photo. Like, Dave's posing for the photo. Irf just can't put the phone down.
He's not even looking at his phone. It's bad on your shoulders to have your arms up like that. Lots of coverage and lots of different opinions out there. We're bringing you a different opinion today, folks. People looking to get some counterintuitive notions about who's going where. This is your man right here. Will Scouch joins us now.
Hello.
You're our wacky draft insider here, Will, just because you have very unique opinions on everything that's about to happen. He's the founder of Scouching, CTO of Fractal Hockey, and you can find him at scouching.ca. Welcome aboard here, Will. It's been a long time coming.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. You know, it was great seeing that DM come in. I'm feeling good. You know, it's Christmas Eve, so
Yeah.
I can't be too down today. You know,
No,
It feels like if you're going to have some, I don't know if they're outlandish takes, but this feels like the draft. Like there is so much
That's fair.
volatility, and it just kind of feels like this is going to be an off the board sort of draft.
it's entirely possible. I mean, I think a lot of people have accurately summarized that this is a pretty even, wide open class, and there's all like the things that are really interesting. The storylines are definitely more intriguing than most. I mean, this is a year where there's a lot of defensemen and they all kind of bring somewhat different things. So you kind of see what people like in a player and maybe some of the things they really value and maybe some of the, you know, so, and now you get to see teams and what they kind of think. And so it's been a really interesting year to watch, and I'm really fascinated to see how it goes. It's going to be a very interesting last 48 hours here.
we're going to bring your rankings up in a second. Have you done any mocks yet? Because of all these draft picks that have changed hands, like I wonder how much that's changed your mind a little bit about who might go where.
I'm not going to lie. This is a benefit of working for yourself. I did a mock draft and I updated it after the Ottawa stuff on the weekend. And then once the Buffalo stuff started happening the other day.
Too crazy.
I just kind of went, you know what? I'm done. No, we're done. We're just leaving it. It's the way it's going to be. And I'm leaving it. I'm not going to try to keep up because the NHL seems to be going in a completely different direction all the time.
And that's fun too. That we've got that little wrinkle that we don't normally have of top 5 and top 10 picks being traded. Let's get to it, and we'll put your rankings up and then we'll run and duck for cover here as people react to them. And the first two pretty much according to Hoyle for most people. Gavin McKenna at 1, Ivar Stenberg at 2. And again, folks, this is a ranking, not a mock draft. But you've got some old names. This is not, from 2 years ago with Tynan Lawrence ranked at number 3, but you have stuck to your guns despite his uneven season moving to college hockey.
Absolutely.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so for starters, the way I do my work is a little bit different than most people. I kind of focus a lot more on performance data collection. So I collect a lot of my own data from performances and video and all that stuff. And I basically compile my own databases on what guys bring to the game and what they're doing on the ice. And it's not necessarily like a one-to-one, like this isn't ordered like best to worst. It's just an added sort of level of context that I think most people don't really have access to. So you end up with some weird stuff that pops out where you kind of, it helps you zoom out and you sort of see the bigger picture. And I guess if you want to start with Lawrence, I mean, I think with him, I think it's a very interesting year, and we were talking about that a little earlier, but it's interesting too because there's this big paradigm shift going on where a bunch of players are jumping to the NCAA really early. I think there's 5 17-year-olds in the NCAA this year, and I think in this millennium, there's only been 26 or 27, something like that. So there's been this massive influx of 17-year-olds into the NCAA, and CHL players are going in. So the NCAA is tougher than it's ever been. And so for Tynan Lawrence being a kid born in July, I think, and going to the NCAA halfway through the year after coming back from injury, having a pretty good run with Muskegon before he left and went to Boston University. I mean, the idea that he didn't hit the ground running and look like Gavin McKenna scoring point after point after point is I don't think that should be a surprise to people. And I think that based on the situation he was in with Boston University, where I look at that defense group there, and they had Cole Hudson, but there wasn't a whole lot of depth there. Their forward group, he had a Cole Eiserman to sometimes play with, but the guys he was playing with, it wasn't.
That program was off this year. That program was off.
It was not the best year for them. Yeah. Yes, it was not the best year. So with Lawrence, though, the big thing for me is that he just plays like I always think about the Stanley Cup playoffs and work backwards. Who are the guys that I think if I'm up a goal, down a goal, even at 5-on-5 with 2 minutes left, if I'm a coach, I can pat them on the back and go, this guy will help me win this game. One way or the other, we're going to have the best chance to win if I play this guy. And Lawrence is a center who is incredibly active on both sides of the puck. He's a guy that makes everybody else on the ice with him better, in my opinion. He moves the puck really well. There's valid criticism with him in terms of the dynamic ability to create plays in the offensive zone. He can be a little bit too sort of net driven and just no matter what, just go to the net, and not really making a whole lot of plays. But this is why I do the data tracking. Like zooming out, he's an exceptional transition quarterback, offensively, defensively, very good forechecker, very good supportive defensive center as well. he just plays a way that not many other guys in this draft really do, and has the energy on both sides of the puck that I personally really love, and I think that could take him a long way, right? I'm not always the most interested in the most skilled guys, not the best shooters, not all this stuff, because when it comes time for the Stanley Cup playoffs, like, we always see how some of the guys that pop up are the ones that just work harder than everybody else, right? They're the ones who pressure them just a step quicker than everybody else, who are consistent every shift. And that is an example of a player that is definitely like that. And so for Lawrence, it's like, yeah, there are some warts, but especially if he's a guy that's not going in the first few picks of the draft. I mean, you're getting a competitor, and you're getting a guy who is a winner. And we've seen tons of evidence of that over the course of the year, whether or not, no matter what you feel about his time with BU.
All right, it's fascinating that you've got him ranked third. And of course, the Vancouver Canucks holding the third pick. And there's just been so much talk out here about Caleb Malhotra, and obviously with his father coaching the Vancouver Canucks. And so as I scroll down and
just keep scrolling, just keep scrolling. Yes.
There you can see on the graphic, for those that are watching, you've got Caleb Malhotra at 15, which means you've got 14 prospects rated above him. So why there? What are the warts, and what do you like about the player?
Well, this is the thing about this class, is it's very, very open and even. And I think if you really believe that with the sort of pedigree and the history that Malhotra has and the access that he has, I think there is value to having like an NHL dad, who is, especially Manny Malhotra, who's been around the block for so long, and coaches and all that stuff. Like, I think that's an asset. So if you really want to lean into that, I could see why he would be a guy that you pick higher than where I have him. I can just only go off of my own experience, right? And when I see Malhotra, I see a guy who is, I see why teams like him. He's very good on his feet. He's very good under pressure. He can make plays. He's a guy that quarterbacks rushes pretty well offensively. I think he's a guy that gets portrayed, it spooks me, a little bit unlike what he actually is. I think people talk about him like he's more like his dad than he is. I've heard like Patrice Bergeron as a comparison, and I don't see that with him. I see maybe you get like a Vincent Trocheck out of him, where it's like a middle six center who can play some good offensive minutes for you. He can make plays. He's good under pressure, projectable. He's a little bigger than Trocheck, I believe. But I think that with Malhotra, my issues are often that I worry about his, the quickness and the skating ability to really project as a top-end center. His defensive game is pretty lackluster. The data that I tracked on him was, I would say, pretty middling. I think a lot of it comes down also to he was playing with two of the best OHL players this year in Adam Banach and Cooper Dennis on his line. And I think he did benefit from that, but he also did help them out. So it's this weird middle area where it's like, it's not like I don't like him. It's kind of how I felt about a Caleb Desnoyers last year, where I liked him, but not top five. And I think I had him early teens, something like that. And so it's not a dislike of the player. It's like, if you really believe in the storyline and what's going on there, then definitely he goes higher than where I have him. But I see a little bit more out of a few other guys. But in all honesty, you wouldn't have to convince me too hard to take him as high as 7, 8-ish, something like that. I could do it. I just think there's a little further ways to go in his game than I think people lead on.
Viggo Bjork, the other potential center available here. And he's got some late helium. He was well talked about before this year. Then he kind of sagged into the teens for a lot of people. And now he's back into the top 10 for most, I think. And you got him as high as number 4. Obviously, the smallest of the 3 centers that we've talked about. Will he overcome? Will people believe in him at that height?
Well, I think a few things are going on here. I think with Bjork, it's very much, for starters, I think he's really improved in some really key areas over the last 18 months, I'd say. Like, I think last season, being 2025, I felt kind of like he was small and kind of lacked the dynamic quickness and skating ability to really project. He was more of a playmaker, just pure passer, and he, has over time really developed a level of quickness and quick thinking and quick feet. Like, everything happens a lot quicker with him than it used to. And so with Bjork, it's like he has a competitiveness to him as well that you cannot underestimate for a smaller guy like that. I think his ability to quarterback play up the middle of the ice is also really, really strong, especially doing so in the SHL, which is not a joke at all. European coaches don't play 17-year-olds who are 5'9" and as their number one center very often.
It's true.
And it's their job to win games. So if they think he's going to lose them games, they're not going to play him there. And I think you can see why they might trust him with that role. He's dynamic, he's creative, he's skilled and competitive. I also know that, Vancouver drafted his older brother. His older brother is 6'2", I believe, 6'3". So with Bjork being relatively young-ish, if he's 5'9" now, but in 2 years he's 5'11" or 6 feet tall, does anybody care? How many people are going, oh my God, we skipped over this guy because he's 5'9", but his older brother is big. I believe his parents are quite tall as well. So you're taking a risk that maybe he won't grow anymore, but the signs are sort of pointing in the direction of okay, there might be more going on here, and that in a few years you're going to really like having this guy because all the ingredients are there. It's just, to me, a hockey puck is an inch thick. If he's this much bigger, does anybody care? And right. I don't think so. And so that's why I have him so high. I think he's just a really, really, really solid player. I know there's an outlet out there that has him a 1. So some people out there really, really like this guy. I'm one of them. And he's definitely come a long way. And I think that bodes really, really well.
And I think that's where we come back to just the volatility of this draft. And ultimately, we'll get some answers on Friday night. We said earlier, defense-heavy draft, and you've got Albert Smits as your top D-man on the board, which is interesting because a lot of people have him in that sort of 5, 6, 7 range, but I think a lot of people think there'll be 3 guys off the board before they get to Albert Smits. So what made him the top defenseman in your rankings?
I just love him. I not many guys like him come along. I think he's a very unique player. I think a lot of people are also not necessarily painting him in the same light that I would. A lot of people are saying he's Moritz Seider. And I think I don't see that out of him. I see a Brent Burns out of him. I think he is a really aggressive and interesting offensive defenseman who has really great skating edges and really good skill for a tall guy. Also, I think his resume amongst defensemen in this year's draft, now he was given a lot of opportunity by nature of being Latvian, but playing in the Olympics and looking pretty good, playing at the World Championships, looking pretty good, playing at the World Juniors. I saw him shut down Gavin McKenna against Canada a number of times. The track record is positive for a guy like Smits. And I think with him, he's not a bad defensive player either, but I think it's a good baseline, but the offense is where it really shows up for me. And I would want to nurture that, right? We interviewed him on our channel for a video, and he's definitely a bit of a personality. He's got a bit of a vibe to him that's not typical. And some people might like that. Some people might not. I personally really appreciated it. I saw an article where Scott Wheeler asked him, what kind of hockey player do you model your game after? And Wheeler said, nobody. He said nobody. And he's like, well, but you have to say somebody. And so he gave some milquetoast answer. But that's the type of person he is. He's they asked him, are you worried about playing Gavin McKenna? And he goes, no, I play grown men all the time. I don't care. This is just another game for me. And it's I love that energy about him. That just kind of going with it, not really being afraid of much and just going out and playing an effective game. And I think he's got a ton of upside. And I think if the right team takes him, they could turn him into a really interesting player. And if the wrong team takes him, you might end up with a Rasmus Ristolainen, where it's this offensively gifted 17-year-old, 18-year-old, and you just keep pushing the physical game on him. You keep pushing the defensive game on him, and taking all the joy out of his game. And I think you might end up with a bit of a problem, but I really, really like him. And I think there's a lot more to him with a longer resume than a lot of the other guys available.
I'm guessing some of what you said about Tynan Lawrence applies to Keaton Verhoff, although you still got him pretty high at number 8. Chase Reed's at 10, which is pretty low compared to your colleagues out there in the world, and I don't even see Carson Carl's name. So, what are there red flags with either of the two guys that I just mentioned, Reed and Carl's, or is it again just sliced so thin that somebody's got to be off the board?
It's more that. Carroll's is the one guy off the board. He's at 16. So Carroll's, I like Carroll's defensive game as it is. I think that, again, going back to the NCAA thing, I've watched a lot of the NCAA. I've watched a lot of the Canadian Hockey League, and I feel like the Canadian Hockey League has taken a step back that allows for some bad habits to take hold, especially with defensemen, right? I look at a lot of the defensemen available out of Canada this year, and over the last few years, I would say it's been a bit of a commonality, and we see it at the World Juniors where they're used to sort of having it having the game sort of played at the pace they're comfortable at. They're comfortable at a certain level of play, and they know they're beyond their cohort, so they can kind of push things around a little bit more, but they don't have that sort of high-paced defensive style of game. And I think with Reed, like, I see maybe you get like a Morgan Riley type of guy out of him, where he's very mobile, a very good northbound skater with some good offensive tools, a good shot, but I watch him defend and he's a bit inactive. He doesn't really use his frame a whole lot. He kind of, sits back a little bit too much for my liking. But again, like Verhoff, Reed, Gustafsson was in your graphic, and Carson Carrolls are all, I would say, in the same tier. Depending on what you like and what you value, I could see it all being a bit of a wash. I just think that compared to like a guy like Verhoff, I mean, to me, if Verhoff went back to the WHL like he normally would have, and he scores 30 goals this year and has 80, 90 points, I don't think anybody bats an eye about him being at least a top 10 pick, maybe even higher.
Yes.
And so I see that as like, you have to keep that kind of thing in mind. He challenged himself. He was on a great team. He got pushed to his limit, I think, a lot this year. And guys like, I think Carrolls and Reed and Rudolph and all these other guys, I just don't think they were really pushed all that hard, all that often. And I think that's valuable when you're at this age, like being challenged and challenging yourself. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm taking it a little bit too seriously, but I just, when push comes to shove, they just edge the Canadian League guys out a little bit more than I think the rest of the marketplace seems to think.
I got to ask you, because the Canucks have 2 first-rounders. They've got 3 and they've got 24. And there are a lot of people out here that think, hey, wouldn't it be cool if they stuck in their own backyard? The Vancouver Giants with a couple of players that are there. One of them is Mathis Preston, who you've got him linked way closer to their first pick than that second pick in the second round. So a little surprised. I haven't seen many that have him as high as 6.
But a lot of chatter lately. A lot of chatter on him.
I love him. I obviously I do, because he's at 6. But I think he is one of the most misunderstood players in the entire class. Like, I think there are reasons to be shook about him. Like, he's a guy who, if I'm drafting him, my angle is like, all right, you talk the talk really, really well. You are capable of some incredible things, but you got to walk the walk, man. Like, you have he could be here. Right? Like, he could be, to me, like a William Nylander type, like skilled dual threat offense guy, incredible skater, incredible skill, like stuff that doesn't come around. Like, I think he could be like a superstar level 1, where it's like you see a David Pastrnak go in the 20s, and in retrospect, you're like, how is that even possible? But I look at a Mathis Preston and go, number 1, he's pretty young. Again, like Lawrence, he's a July birthday. Number 2, I also feel like when you see, he only played 10 games in Vancouver, but in those 10 games, he had points on, I think, 45% of their goals, which is insanely high for a guy. So yes, he was only a point a game or so, but like, they didn't score a whole lot. And without him,
they were a bad team.
Not score. Right. Yeah. So with Preston, I get the feeling that he's a guy where the playmaking in his game has really developed over the last 18 months. Like last season with Spokane, he was very shot heavy. It was just shots and shots and shots and shots. But I think he's really developed an ability to get pucks in front of the net and drive a playmaker's game a little bit more than he does. It's just over the course of the season, he hasn't had that many guys who can actually like finish for him, both on Spokane or in Vancouver. So for me, I look at him and I go, I buy low on him. I mean, I think there are reasons why teams are a little spooked about him. And I think teams may not, again, he's got swagger. Like, I know that he's a guy who went a little lower in the WHL draft because he told teams that he's like, I want to score 50 goals. And they were like, well, too cocky, too whatever, And I get that, but I also love that about him, right? Like, it's like you can talk, you can walk it, you can say whatever you want to say, and I believe that you're capable of it. But if you go out there and make some of the plays that you make where it's a little bit, like if he's going for a change, he'll flip the puck over the defensive blue line, but at about 2 miles an hour and about 3 inches off the ice, and then just go for a change and the puck's coming right back the other way. And it's like stuff like that is a no, like in the NHL, that's not going to fly. Teams aren't going to play you. So it's like, but I know you're better than this. Like, I know there's more here. So it's about consistency and trusting him and having him sort of develop as like a higher end professional player. It's a possibility that it doesn't work, but I think the talent floor is as high as anybody in this class. It's just a matter of how far you think he can go.
So three of the guys that I think have got a lot of helium lately and have been getting a lot of chatter, they might go before the 20th pick and before the Canucks at 24. But do you think it's possible that one of Preston, Wyatt Cullen, or Ethan Belchitz, who these are guys that wide ranges of predictability here from you and your colleagues, is one of those guys available at 24, do you think?
Preston, I would say. I'd say Preston of them all. I think, as far as I know, Cullen might be the opposite. Like, he might go really high. I wouldn't be shocked if he went to like New York at 5. You know, like just a pure Showtime high skill pick. I could see it, and it could be awesome. It could be awesome. And Belchitz, I just think a team is going to go. Look at him, right? Like he's a human, whatever you want to, whatever word you want to use. He's a monster. And they're like, well, you got to have guys like that. Not many guys are that big and shoot like that. Like, what if he is Tage Thompson, right? Like, that's an enticing thought, right? And so I could see, I would be very surprised if Belchitz fell all the way to 24. But Preston, that one I would be a little bit surprised if he wasn't available at 24 at this point, but you never know, right? You never know.
Well, this has been a very informative, and it's good. It's good to get all the different opinions, and you presented them well. So we appreciate your time, and it's go time tomorrow. Enjoy the next couple of days.
You as well. Thanks for having me on. Anytime, guys.
Once again, from the historic Wall Center, Harrison Price in our fabulous Nation Network studios, built by Arbor Lee. Tickets a secured hotel solved. Make the Wall Center your downtown headquarters for every big game, concert, and rivalry night. See what's happening at wallcenter.com. We talked about this earlier in the week. The Vancouver Giants made it official today. They have their first GM/coach in team history in Michael Dick. Perhaps a chance to re-inject some winning into this program. This is a little bit wrapped up into the venue facility chat we've been having, around this new Surrey rink as well. The Giants need to get into the conversation just a bit more again. And it wasn't that long ago they were in that conversation, so some winning would help.
It's a crowded landscape out there. You're right. You've got to find a way to stand out, and the best way to do it, it seems to be winning. They didn't do much of that this past year, but Michael Dick coming off a Calder Cup victory as an assistant coach with the Toronto Marlies. That's where he's been the last 3 years. Was a Giants head coach for 5 years. So this should be hand in glove. It's the worst kept secret, I think, in hockey circles that this was going to be happening. And so he's back now. And he guided this team to a Western Hockey League final back in 2019 with Bowen Byram, who we talked about earlier on the show. He was a huge part of that team. So there's familiarity. There's obviously trust between the Toigo family and Michael Dick. And it's hit the ground running and try to build this program back to where it's been in years gone by. Kind of feels like it needs a little bit of a fresh coat of paint. And so he's not a new face to the organization, but he is tasked now with sort of restoring the luster to the Vancouver Giants.
Yeah, I hope they can do that. Speaking of needing wins, the BC Lions, oh my goodness. They need bodies as well. Keon Hatcher and TJ Lee limited at practice yesterday. Nothing for Justin McInnes. So they're still so injured. They can ill afford to start the season 0-3. Have they come back from big holes before? Have they squandered 5-0 starts? Yes, that's both of those things have happened. But it's just such a hard road when you make your life so difficult on yourself.
Well, and you could have the best quarterback in the league in Nathan Rourke, and they do, but if he doesn't have primary targets to throw to, I don't care who's behind center. It's just going to make the job that much tougher. So, it's a lack of familiarity with the guys that are stepping in, the experience factor. This is pro sports, and you're asking an awful lot of guys. Sure, next man up, that's fine. But when it's the next 2, 3, 4 guys up at a particular position, that just makes life really difficult. And so that is part of the reason. Through it all, their defense has to play better. They can't keep falling behind. That's been the problem in the first 2 games. Like, I don't care who you are, how much firepower you think you've got. You spot your opponents a couple of touchdowns early. It just makes life that much more difficult. So hopefully a better start for them. Hopefully they get a little bit of good news on the injury front, because you're right. They need a win in a bad way.
And we keep talking about the health of the wide receiving corps, but you're right. the defense needs to show up. Like when your wide receivers are injured, and they've actually put enough points on the board to win games, the defense needs to be a whole lot better. 1 p.m. on Saturday versus Calgary at Kelowna's Apple Bowl. They are saying to people, reminder, and they haven't explicitly said it in this way, but I'll say it this way. It's a temporary facility, not used to this influx of amount of people. If you're up there, if you're either from Kelowna or from Vancouver driving up there, get there early because, they haven't had to deal with this kind of flow of people before at the Apple Bowl, and they want to make sure you get there in time. Jays should not be losing 2 of 3 to the Astros, but they did, just when you want to believe in them. Nope. M's were pounded 11-1. Seattle still leading the AL West by 2, though. Jays hanging on to the last wild card spot, and it was not good for all the 3 baseball teams that we covered. Johnny King did his job for the season. Hillsborough, 5 hits allowed over 5 innings, 1 earned run, and 6 Ks. But alas, the bullpen can't keep it close. A 9th inning rally comes up short, 4-2 the final. But they are getting closer to coming home. I was getting set to do some notes for this segment last night, and I saw that they were in the top of the 9th inning, so I toggled over to minorleaguebaseball.com, and they've got, live,
Right.
It's a live feature that shows you balls and strikes and all that. And I sat there and watched the Hillsborough starting pitcher they were trying to give him a complete game shutout. He walked the first 4 batters of the inning.
Ooh.
1 run comes in. They bring in somebody out of the bullpen. That guy walks the first guy. 2 runs in via walk in the 9th. I'm like, this is interesting. Bases are still loaded. But all that was with 2 outs. They got the first 2 batters of the inning, and then all those wide. So I was like, I said to my son, I'm like, I am glued to virtual baseball, virtual high A baseball on the internet. But it was pretty intriguing. And in the end, they are coming home again as the World Cup wraps up. They wanted to get out of the way a little bit for the first two weeks. They're turning 75 at the Nat, of course, 75-cent hot dogs on Tuesday, Triple O's on the concourse. Back on June 30th. Long homestand, then 12 games in 13 days at the Nat. July 1st is the Canada Day fireworks, and more fireworks on Thursday, July the 9th. And July 11th, Kevin Pillar back at the Nat. Get your ticket 604-872-5232 or check out CanadiansBaseball.com. Poll questions from yesterday. Will Canada make it to the round of 16 at the World Cup? That after the disappointment of the loss versus Switzerland. What do you think the people said?
Well,
and I retweeted it after we found out it was South Africa.
Right, because as we were asking that initially, we thought it was going to be Korea. Now it's South Africa. I think people are still bullish, and I think they see an opportunity here. So I'm going to say that, positivity carried the day.
It did, but not by a ton. 52.4% still thinking
doubters.
Canada can make it to the round of 16. I think a lot of that might have been, you're right, the bias of thinking they were facing Korea. And Korea lost. Like, Korea lost to that. So you got to also be careful what you think about there. Like, I thought about that when Korea was pushing for that tie, because the tie would have been enough for them.
Right.
If they had scored the goal, like, they looked as bad as they did. Why couldn't Canada have beaten last night's Korea? I think they could have. The hockey poll question. Amidst all the deals, how do you feel about the Canucks' inactivity on the trade market this week? Outraged or getting anxious, or it's fine, it's a long summer? Who won there?
Canucks Twitter, probably outraged.
No, the middle ground won.
What?
Just getting anxious at 48% of the vote. 40% of the people, though, have patience. It's fine. Long summer. Wow, that is an inordinate amount of faith in the new group, and I guess that's part of it. It's the new group. They're not going to let them wear the stench of the last couple of administrations.
Is Canucks Twitter getting soft? Just 12% outrage.
They love them some Twins. And Ryan Johnson spoke today. It was not a lot of commitment to change in terms of the veterans, so we'll see if that commitment holds. Well, we'll do something similar, I'm sure, leading into July 1st, but this is where their reputation starts to get made, right? And I think people will have a lot to say about that the closer we get to July 1st, and then shortly thereafterwards as we see what kind of work they have done. The draft tomorrow. Can't wait. We're going to be here for the first pick. We're going to be here for the Canucks picks in the first round, obviously, as well. We can't wait for all of your reaction. Make sure you're there to meet it all live on our social channels, live on YouTube. You getting the feeling there's going to be hijinks, or is it going to be?
I think there will be around the league. Whether the Canucks are involved, I mean, I want them to be because it gives us stuff to talk about, obviously. But no, I don't think that everything that was to be done was done on Tuesday around the National Hockey League. I think we're in for an explosive day.
We'll see you in the late afternoon right here on the same channels you're watching today and on podcast as well. Talk to you tomorrow afternoon with another edition of Sick Harrison Price. Make sure you support all the sponsors and promo the shows that we tell you about here. Keep it local, folks.